Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm alright. Yeah, had a week off. It's been good.
Nice.
It's been lovely so far. Nice and slow, which is what you want from a week off, you know?
Yes.
You always get those weeks when they fly by. This one's actually felt like a week off. It's like, oh.
You need another week to recover from that.
Yeah, probably. But, yeah. But yeah, so seen a couple of movies. It's been good.
Sweet.
Do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Let's go with Moonfall.
I'm very excited to hear about your thoughts of Moonfall, which looked like I was gonna say, like, even by this director's standards, this looks really fucking stupid. Like, even for him.
Yeah, it looked like what it is, a Roland Emmerich movie.
But it's like the natural conclusion progression of a Roland Emmerich movie. You know, it's like, this is always where we were going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the natural end to
Yep.
the Roland Emmerich formula.
Yep.
So the moon crashes into Earth.
Pretty much.
Go for it, Matt. I'm really curious because
Yeah.
I've not seen this, but I have seen the trailer, and I feel like I've seen it.
So
But
the movie opens up in 2011, and you've got Halle Berry's Jacinda Fowler and Patrick Wilson's Brian Harper and another astronaut. They are in space repairing a satellite when some thing comes from the moon and destroys the satellite and kills one of them. Patrick Wilson gets entangled in the space shuttle and gets pulled in. Halle Berry's character gets knocked out. So Patrick Wilson manages to land the shuttle with no sort of power, as it were, and all that sort of stuff. And then he's basically put on trial for incompetence, and he's disgraced.
okay.
Because the thing that came in was like this. It's like a weird sort of snaky thing that's made up of nanobots, basically.
Right.
Only he saw it, and they don't believe him. So
Sure.
You then cut to 11 years later, and you're then introduced to Casey Houseman, played by John Bradley, who was what was his name? He was in Game of Thrones. He was the big chap from the north. Samwell.
Mm-hmm.
He was Samwell Tully. He's this wannabe scientist who is breaking into this. I think he's breaking into the observatory to use their computers to.
Okay, it's like a renegade scientist.
Yeah,
which is another. Actually, that's a common Emmerich trope as well.
Oh, dude, everything in
There's
this.
always like a scientist guy or like the smartest guy in the room who's a bit of a rebel and no one listens to them even though they're clearly right.
Oh god, yeah, no one listens to this guy at all. No one listened to it at all. And yeah, everybody. It was like, oh god, it's divorced dads and lots of children, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So Casey looks at this computer program, these coordinates for the moon, and sees that the moon is out of orbit.
That is something I think would be immediately noticeable to everyone on the fucking planet. But continue.
So he has this theory. His theory is that the moon is a what is it? How is it he puts it? I can't remember how he puts it. Oh god, what is that? Basically, he says,
Nazi base.
It's a mega structure.
It actually is a Nazi base.
It's a mega structure.
Okay.
So he believes that basically it's a Dyson sphere.
Right.
Which already makes you go, not that size. It isn't.
Yeah, that really doesn't work. But go on.
Yeah. Anyway, so
you're kind of making me want to watch it now, if I'm honest.
So meanwhile, Patrick Wilson's character is, he's divorced from his wife. He's washed up, and he's supposed to be giving this talk at the observatory to these kids. But the KC turns up first and starts lecturing these kids on how the moon is a megastructure and things. He turns up and gets him chucked out. Meanwhile, Halle Berry is now like second in command of NASA, basically.
Right.
I mean, it's not NASA, but she's second in command of this thing, and they get all these warnings. Oh no, the moon is out of
whack.
And it's coming down there, and they got this picture of this thing coming out of one of the craters on one of the sort of the what they call the rivers of Mars sort of thing. It was got one, not Mars, well, they call it lakes of the moon sort of thing.
Yeah, the old frozen lakes. And
she's like, oh, that was where this colleague said the thing came from. When we were up. So, and you get all that fucking shit. And genuinely, Halle Berry. Oh god,
she's far too talented for this film.
Said before,
I think.
I've never been the biggest Halle Berry fan, but I've always thought she was a pretty good actress.
She's a good actress, yeah.
And the last movie I saw in, that Bruised, I thought she was brilliant in.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she says the lines in here with a straight face, and I genuinely
Fair play to
don't know
her.
how she does it.
Fair play to her.
It reminded of you've seen Notting Hill, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene when they're on the roof and Hugh Grant is going over her lines for the movie that she's about to do?
Yeah.
And it's some sort of submarine movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the lines are like, "Tell little Timmy I'm going to return," and tell the general I need star cover or whatever the fuck it is, and all that sort of stuff. It just sounded the dialogue just sounds like that.
Oh boy!
And it was like, oh, come on, honey, you're better than this. You really are. And Patrick Wilson, bless him.
Yeah.
I
think the same could be said for most of Emmerich's movies. The actors are like, whoa. Yeah. Why are you in this?
They are clearly doing their best with what they've been given, but you just think, oh, God. Long story short, the moon's coming down, you get gravity
pull. Which is instant death for everyone on the planet, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just,
done. The science of this is clearly done by the same people who do Discovery and Picard these days. Because it's...
or the same people that did 2012.
Yes, it's complete and utter nonsense.
Or The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's got history with this.
The Day After Tomorrow I enjoy. And again, maybe because it's the visuals.
Yeah, I mean, there are some great visuals in Day After Tomorrow.
Basically, you get the usual sort of stuff of... so his kid now, the main character's son is... he's not exactly great. He's an older teen, and he's just been arrested for joyriding or something, and they sort of get him off because he agrees to go up into space again, and you get this sort of the journey across the country from trying to find safety with the kids and his family and Halle Berry's family, Halle Berry's kids. Trying to get to the safety. So you get that, and you get Michael Pena being the stepdad, and you get this awful these bucktooth yokel types stealing their car, and at some point, and then coming back later on, and you keep getting little interactions with them, which is just terrible. And they go up into space again, and you can tell that a lot of the money came from China because one of the actresses is clearly shoehorned in because she's Chinese, and they keep the fact that they keep saying, "Oh, this fuel for the rocket's coming from our friends in China." Is they keep mentioning their friends in China, and you think, "Yep, okay, fine, fair enough, our friends in China."
And China has saved many a film in films. Oh god, yeah. So I can understand why.
Yeah. So I will say that some of the visuals are really good. Some of the sort of the bizarre moon close to the Earth gravity pulls of things going up in the air and flooding and all that sort of stuff. Some of that stuff is really, really good. Some of the actual you can tell that even just like them walking into buildings and stuff was green screening, which that stuff is terrible. You just think,
right,
that doesn't even look remote.
It's just like so badly keyed that like
but the actual visuals themselves are pretty good. They're pretty well done. Some the alien-y type stuff and the moon stuff is nice. But oh my god, it is the dumbest fucking movie you watch. It is quite clearly the worst Roland Emmerich movie I've ever seen.
Which is in itself quite a statement. That's pretty.
My brother-in-law said, "Oh, I just watched this. You should watch it." And I thought, "Oh, I wasn't going to, but if he says it's funny and he enjoyed it, then I'll watch it."
And was it funny? And did you enjoy it?
Unintentionally.
I don't think it's ever intentional with Roland Emmerich, but
it's literally like you could have. It's basically like he got the script for sort of Independence Day and.
Well, I was going to say that someone should make a supercut of all of these films where all the characters are in it and just all the disasters are happening at the same time.
Yeah, he's just sort of scrubbed.
Changed the names
and moved them into the next
and replaced alien spaceship with the moon.
Yes, yeah, it's just terrible.
Because wasn't that terrible fucking Independence Day sequel Resurgence that had the same plot? The mothership was so big that it was gravity pulling everything up from the Earth.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same plot, except this time they put the moon there instead.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
But, I mean, we don't need to discuss how disastrous the moon even changing orbit, let alone
there's
coming down to the planet.
There's one funny bit where, a couple of times, they're using satellite phones, right?
Okay.
And you think, well, if the moon is in the Earth's orbit, all of those satellites are dead. There's no way any of those.
Yeah, I think you've got issues.
There's just no way. And I mean, I guess more fall for me for trying to make sense of it, because I'm not.
I mean, I remember my
in the world, but I know enough to.
No, but like I remember my rage during the. Was it Peter Capaldi's Doctor when the moon is like an alien and it just fucks off at the end of the episode and is like everyone's fine? It's like what?
This made me think of that episode.
But this is worse. This is even worse.
Oh, but it's not though, is it? Because the thing about Kill the Moon is the alien disappears and leaves another egg in its place. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? What? Oh no!
Perfect
that is
writing.
Definitely one of the worst fucking episodes of Doctor Who.
It's terrible, but it made me think of this when you were explaining this.
This definitely made me think of
I
that.
was getting Kill the Moon and Independence Day. That's what I was getting.
Oh yeah, they got the whole sort of when they get up there, they whatever it is that's there it's obviously it's affecting the moon's orbit and all that sort of stuff. So they've got to use this. They take up this fucking like EMP device to take out whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, does it really matter if I spoil this?
I don't know. I feel like I've seen it from the trailer, so I don't know. Although I must admit, I didn't know it was going to be a tiny Dyson sphere.
Yeah, basically, I'm gonna spoil this. If you don't want it spoiled,
I don't feel like it matters. I feel like even if you know, it might just make you want to watch it even more. Because the more I hear about this, the more I want to watch it. It just sounds so bad that
this will get you. The moon was created by our ancestors. So
is this it's the Anunnaki ancient aliens thing.
Kind of. It's basically so the human race had got to the point where they were.
Oh God! It's going to be perfect. Like it was the Atlanteans from Atlantis, and they made No.
It's they were in a different galaxy basically, or a different.
Oh, okay.
And they were peaceful, and they had no wars, and they were all everything was sorted. There was no war or famine or anything like that, and they spread out across the universe, and then here you go. Their AI turned against them.
Oh no, that treacherous AI.
Yeah, so their treacherous AI turned against them.
And turned into serpent things.
Basically, yeah. nano serpents, basically, and wiped them out. Where they were planning on making. They decided to make these Dyson spheres sort of things to help them, and they were supposed to hide them throughout the universe and things, but they only managed to make one.
Oh, okay. I thought for one moment you were suggesting that every moon is a Dyson sphere.
No, I think they said there was only they managed to make this one.
Okay.
And all the others were destroyed by this thingy. But the thing good passive AIs helped them, and that's what controls.
This is the plot to Independence Day Resurgence.
I know.
This is literally the plot to Independence Day 2, which is previous to this the worst Roland Emmerich movie I've ever seen. This is literally the same bloody story, because there's the good aliens in that.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's so much. I mean, there's even a bit where they've got this like little sort of shuttle thing, which has got a rover at the back of it, which is what they fly to the actual moon in, and it takes them in and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And there's the Patrick Wilson talking to the AI, which in a scene that was vaguely like the Abyss, when he goes into the
okay,
and there, he sees the pictures of and things. This one is like he's talking to the construct of his son, sort of thing, and they're in this sort of hangar, and
so now it sounds like the world's end.
Yeah, there are these massive ships in this hangar. They've got all these ships everywhere,
right?
And the AI, for some reason, repairs his little shuttle thing, and they go off in that to do the deed, as it were. But they've got all these ships. Why don't they just give him one of those? I don't understand.
It doesn't matter.
Oh god, it's so bad. It is so utterly. I mean, the guy playing his son is awful. The small kid playing Halle Berry's kid. Now, we've said recently how child actors have got better.
Not all.
Not this one. It's fucking terrible.
Some of them.
I mean, and I don't know how much the Chinese actress was sort of shoehorned in, or she doesn't really do an awful lot. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. I mean, if you want to watch a disaster movie which has got relatively good visuals, then fine.
There are other films with good visuals, though.
Yeah, you literally have to shut your brain off, though, because it's so dumb.
It kind of sounds worth watching because it's so dumb, if I'm honest.
I think that's it. I think
do you think he's like self-aware now? Do you think Roland Emmerich's just like, I know?
I honestly don't know.
Like,
because he made a few other movies that weren't disaster movies. He'd done some really odd choices, like what is that bloody one we did about Shakespeare?
I have no idea.
Anonymous. He did Anonymous, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that was him, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of other ones that were like, well, maybe he's over the disaster movie thing, and then he did.
He's like, no, I need to make some more money.
Stonewall. He did Stonewall as well. Oh god, he did White House Down.
Was that Emmerich?
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite low key for Roland Emmerich, which is not something you can say for most directors, saying that doing White House Down would be low key, but for him, he's normally like global scale. So
to be fair, we should probably never forgive him for Godzilla.
Well, no, naturally. Although I have.
If nothing else, it gave us that fun scene in the where Godzilla.
Yeah.
The shit out of.
I do think Godzilla. Like that movie is okay if it's not called Godzilla. Yeah. It's kind of like in fact it's if anything it's more like is it The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms?
Yeah.
It's almost a better remake of that, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not a good movie at all, and it's a terrible Godzilla movie. But as its own thing, really it's all right.
It's got is it Jean Reno in it? And
it's got some good actors in it. Yeah. Well, that's what he does, though, isn't it? He gets really good actors and actresses to fill his garbage movies.
Yeah, I mean,
he peaked with Independence Day. Let's be honest.
I will say it's 2 hours, which
Jesus
is mercifully short.
Is it?
for an hour.
I was going to be, well, no, for him it is, but I was thinking like hour and a half max for this, you know.
Oh god, it's way too long. Yeah. It still needed to be cut down, but it's still fucking shorter than I'm
a
sure
lot of his stuff. Yeah.
I mean, Tomorrow was only 2 hours.
It just felt like it went on forever.
It just maybe 2012 to 2 hours 30. What was Independence Day?
I want to say Independence Day is about 1:30.
2:25.
Jesus, see, now that's a pacey movie though. So
yeah,
I've always said I think that the pacing of Independence Day is very good. It's a very well paced film. So I can imagine.
Resurgence is only 2 hours, so okay, I was wrong about that. I guess they just feel longer.
It's 2 hours of complete garbage though.
Yeah, and this is kind of the same sort of thing. It is really 2 hours garbage.
I guess you know what you're getting with this, though. You know.
That's exactly it. I think.
I mean, the film is called Moonfall.
Yeah, as long as you go in knowing exactly what you're getting, the fact that this is a terrible, terrible movie already, then fine.
Yeah.
But I can't say I recommend it.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I am kind of tempted, maybe if I have a couple of beers and fancy just watching some absolute trash. Because I definitely have a place for, in my heart for schlocky.
Yeah,
crap, and this ticks those boxes for sure.
Exactly.
So,
a couple of pints and a couple of friends round to take the piss out of it. Perfect. I mean, that's the way I watched all the Twilight movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a place for that. Oh well, I may well give that a go. Anyway, time to talk about a film you talked about last week.
Oh yes.
Yes, because thankfully, mercifully, the cinema one last week. The Northman was out for. I believe it goes to streaming this Friday.
Does it really?
Allegedly, yes. My friend really wanted to see it in the cinema, missed it, and she said today, she was like, "Oh, it looks like it's on streaming on Friday." So we managed to get a screening of the Northman last Saturday.
I think it's a movie that needs to be seen.
I am so thankful I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
Because I do think, I to this day I regret not seeing The Lighthouse in the cinema.
Yep.
And I didn't want that again. So when my friend messaged and was like, "Hey, if there's still a screening next weekend, do you want to go see The Northman?" I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely, I do." So yeah, went to see The Northman. You've already reviewed it. It's been a couple of weeks now though, so I feel like we can, probably discuss things a little more. Although we don't need to go into too much. It's quite a straightforward story. It's based on the legend of Amleth, which is Shakespeare's inspiration for Hamlet. It's Robert Eggers directing. I will start off by saying I 100% agree with your opinion on this. It's the weakest of the three out of The Witch and The Lighthouse and this, but it's still a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Saying
it's the worst of those three is not like a bad thing. You're still in, you're still above Moonfall.
It's still still above most movies, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. So I'm assuming most people know what this is about. We Matt did a review last week, but it's set in 895 initially. And the king War Raven, he basically returns home to his wife and son, so he's Prince Amleth in the start as a child. He's due to become king one day, and it's kind of revealed that War Raven's injured, and he's been injured pretty bad, and he's like, that should have killed me. Like, he needs to grow up now. He needs to become a man, and he needs to become ready to take my place. Like, we can't wait any longer. So they participate in a spiritual ceremony with a terrifying William Dafoe, who is amazing. In the 5 minutes he's in this movie, he is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. He's literally in it for about 5 minutes.
Well, and if you count his head, he's in it for a little bit longer.
Well, I mean, he's doing the voiceover, so
yeah, he is. Oh, dude, he was so good, so good. Yeah. But they have this spiritual ceremony.
And what I like about it as well is he's not only is he the shaman, he's also a fool.
Yes, yeah. He's both.
He points out when they return, they're in the hall.
Yeah.
He points out that Fjölnir and the Queen have got something going on.
Yeah. He points out, and Fjölnir is like furious immediately. So Fjölnir is his brother, is the king's brother.
Yeah.
The obviously traitorous brother from the very moment he turns up in the movie. But basically, they have this spiritual ceremony where he sort of becomes a man. But they go to leave the next morning. The king is ambushed by Fjölnir, and basically his men turn on him. They overrun the village, and his mother's taken hostage. Or taken by Fjölnir, leading Amleth to escape, swearing that he will avenge his father and rescue or save his mother.
Yeah,
I won't go into too much more spoiler-wise after that point, because that's kind of your introduction to the movie, the setup for the movie.
I will say the sort of, the twist you can see coming a mile off.
The twist you can see coming a mile off. One of the things I really like about this movie, well, a lot of things I like about this movie, but one of the things about this point that I like about this movie is that everyone's horrible. Like, everyone is thoroughly horrible, pretty much. One or two characters, you're like, okay, maybe they're all right, but for the most part, including Amleth, none of them are particularly good people. They're all.
When you go back to Amleth, he's a berserker. So
he has done some stuff. He's not a good guy. And actions throughout the film by pretty much everyone in the film. None of them are particularly nice people. I thought this,
but I think it's a brutal thing, and it's all about.
No, that's what I like about it.
How people live, isn't it? It's,
absolutely. No one's particularly. There's no sort of. White knight in this story. No. And you kind of know that it's not going to go the way Amleth plans it to.
I suppose the nicest person is probably Olga.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, Olga I think is
she's like the one that's like innocent and kind of okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like, she's just trying to stay alive, really. Which is fair. So I loved the visuals of this film, as you would expect from Robert Eggers. Stunning visuals. The climax is so beautiful. I just so good. It definitely delves into horror territory. There is some visuals that are really messed up. And great. I wasn't sure whether I was expecting that going in, because I was like, well, it's not like a horror movie. It's something else. It kind of is a horror movie in its kind of content. But
certainly, some of the things he does, like the things.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of. The things he does to the men is like, whoa.
Yeah, the things he does to the dudes, and there was a scene where the guy who Amleth cuts his nose off when he was a kid.
Yes.
The scene where
they reunite.
Yeah, where he finishes him off, as it were. I laughed out loud.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I found it really funny.
Yep.
And everybody in the audience just looked at me like I was insane. And
it was funny.
My wife did say, I'm not sure that was appropriate laughter.
It was funny.
And I thought it was funny.
That guy was an absolute scumbag.
Yeah, he was.
Absolute scumbag. I was really pleased when he comes back to his homeland, and one of the first people he sees is the guy that he cut the nose off of.
Yeah.
And he just looks at him and he's like, oh yeah, I did that. Oops.
Yeah.
Just keep your head down.
I do love the whole idea though, that he disguises himself as a slave, and somebody tells him to keep his head down and to hunch. But he's huge.
Yeah, he's is. But then that kind of works to his advantage, because he plays it like he's. So basically, he comes back to his homeland. He realizes that Fjölnir.
Homeland, is it?
No, sorry, it's somewhere else, because they've escaped.
His homeland was taken over.
Yeah, so Fjölnir. Well, funny enough, because King Warraven says at the start when Fjölnir is about to kill him, he says your kingdom will not stand. Like you will fail. And true to his word, that is exactly what happens. And Fjölnir is in hiding. So he heads off. He finds out that he's in hiding because I guess he probably assumed he was untouchable while he was king and had everything around him. But now that he's in exile, because another king swept in and kind of took the land shortly after, he feels he can take him. So he pretends he's a slave, and obviously Fiona doesn't recognize him because he was just a child. And yeah, so that's the whole kind of setup, is that he's basically going to get revenge. But he kind of plays it to be like he's like a real big slave, but he kind of plays like he's a bit silly, he's a bit stupid, and not really, he's a bit dumb and not particularly smart. But yeah, I absolutely loved this movie. There was a couple of moments in the movie that I particularly liked, and it was interesting because when we left the cinema, Ben had a different take on it than I did.
Okay.
So there's the scene when he gets the sword.
Yes, I love that.
It's an amazing scene. He fights the skeleton. This skeleton lord that had the sword. It's very Conan-like. He goes down, finds the sword, gets the sword, and the skeleton comes alive, and there's this big fight, wonderfully choreographed, great fight scene. And he ends up beheading the skeleton, and then immediately after it cuts to him just grabbing the sword from the skeleton. And interestingly, when we left the cinema, Ben said, I took that to mean that he's kind of mental. And I was like, well, that's probably the case, but I took it a different way. So I saw it like this is kind of a mythological tale.
It's the epic. Yeah, it's the epic.
It's the epic. And what I saw it as was like we're switching back and forth between the story being told and the reality.
Yes.
Where it kind of flips back, where we're like, oh, in the tale, he defeats this great skeleton king to get the sword, when in reality, he just went down in a hole and grabbed the sword.
But it's also part of that, remember, before that scene, he's with that...
he's high on drugs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's completely off his tits.
Yeah, there's a lot of witches in this film, and then they're all clearly just, substance abusers.
Yeah.
A lot of them. In fact, there's a great scene in this movie when everyone's on shrooms. Everyone. But yeah, this film.
That's one of the things that I think lost a lot of people when they do this. When you get the first scene of when his father takes him to Willem Dafoe's shaman character.
Oh, dude, I literally said when we left the cinema.
Stuff.
I said when we left the cinema, I reckon all of the casuals were done at that point.
Yeah,
like done.
I think anybody who...
I think if you get through that scene and you're still with us, you're all good.
I think anybody who walked in thinking it was going to be like Gladiator, really was in for a shock at that point.
No, it's a wonderful blending of mythology and real life, and I absolutely adored it.
Loved all the stuff with the Valkyrie and the all those sort of those saga bits.
I love the tragedy of it all as well. There's one of my favorite scenes of the entire film is the boat scene when they're leaving, and they're having that conversation, and they're like, we're free, we're done, we're out, we're sailing away.
Yeah,
and then he's just like knows in the back of his mind, he's like, no, I can't, I have to do this, like I have to do this.
Yeah,
and he says it's to protect them.
Yeah,
but in reality, you're like, I think it's probably more revenge than protection at that point, because you are leaving, and he's got no power. And
he gets that. He gets the vision.
He gets the visions. Yeah.
The tree, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. And his children upon the tree.
Yeah.
And I think he just thinks, actually, if I leave now,
then there's a risk.
He's just gonna do what I was gonna do. And track down my kids.
Track me down, and
So, and I think it kind of breaks Taylor-Joy's heart.
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. The captain of that boat must have been like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Really confused. But yeah, and I thought the climax of this film was stunning.
And again, I mean, you said about Nicole Kidman that her face...
Well, that's right. You can't help that, right? Her performance is amazing in this film. The problem I had with it, and it's...
her tongue is.
She's great.
She gets some of the best lines.
She really does, and she's fantastic. The only thing, and it's just purely a visual and purely a nothing can be helped by it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it is distracting that she clearly has had a lot of plastic surgery, and this is set in 900
it does give her
AD or something. It's kind of like you clearly look like someone who's had a lot of work.
Yeah.
But her performance is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Stunning, and like you said, some of her lines are so good.
Yeah.
The performance is up and down the board amazing in this film.
I mean, even Bjork, who again is in it for less than 5 minutes,
great,
amazing as the blind seer.
Yeah,
just
brilliant. I was like, I don't squee at films, but if I could have. The Bjork moment was like, oh, that was so good.
It was.
I was really pleased. I loved this film. Loved it. I agree with what you said. I think it is the weakest of Eggers' big 3 films, but that is not taking anything away from this film. This film is stunning. I'm so glad I managed to get it see it in the cinema.
Yep.
But watch it wherever you can once it's available, because if you like The Witch and you liked The Lighthouse, it's somewhere in between the two of those.
Yeah.
In terms of how out there it gets.
You have the weirdness, but it is at its core a quite basic story.
It's a very basic story.
So it only gets weird when they have the
shrooms and the drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me they're not too out there really. They're just
no. I thought it was fine. It worked.
The fight with the Draga is like
it's not distracting. It doesn't distract from the film or pull you out or anything like that. It absolutely works.
Yeah. Yes. It's a stunning movie.
It really is. It's an absolutely stunning movie.
But again, you have to warn people if you do go in expecting Gladiator or what was the other one they kept trying to compare it to? I can't remember what the other one was. It's
Conan, probably. Conan's like
it's not that. It's not that at all.
There are certainly Conan vibes in places, but
totally.
But it's not a Conan movie at all. If you're expecting that, you're going to the wrong film. And to be honest, I feel like if you know the work of Robert Eggers, you probably know that's not what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But yeah, a wonderful film, absolutely stunning. Cannot recommend it enough. So, what else have you watched?
Let's go with Studio 666.
Studio 666, starring the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer and I was like, I don't know.
Well,
now that you've seen it, you can tell me all about it.
I kind of wanted to watch a horror movie, and I thought, well, it's the Foo Fighters. I love the Foos.
Yeah, I like their music.
Yeah. I love Dave Grohl. Is like one of the nicest people in the entire.
He
universe.
Does seem to be, doesn't he? He does seem lovely.
I mean, one day I hope it never comes. If it, we find out that he's actually a terrible person. I don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't put it past any celebrity to have that.
No,
capacity.
that's it, isn't it? So we've got the Foo Fighters are they're due another album. Their manager, played by Jeff Garlin, basically says, I owe all this money to some sort of mob boss or something, and I need you to do this next album. And Dave is like, it's all in my head, it's fine, it's great. And it's like, where do you want to go? And he's like, we've been in all the studios, why don't we want somewhere different and new.
Okay.
So actually, it actually starts with in the 90s with this band recording there, and then the lead singer, I think, is killing them all and then hanging himself.
Right. Okay.
And he says, "I've got just the place for you." So they get shown around by what was her name? Barb, who takes them to this rundown mansion. And says, "Oh, this is this is great for you. It's got great." And Dave, he claps in this room. It's like, "Oh, the acoustics are amazing." And it's like every time he claps, you get this hideous demon face on the screen and stuff. And from there, he finds in the basement this sort of recording of this evil song that the other band had started but hadn't finished, and he then gets possessed.
Right.
And it's got some great cameos. It's got Kerry King in it, and John Carpenter plays the guy who mixes the
nice,
which is hilarious. You got Will Forte in it. It's even got a cameo of
made better by the fact that John Carpenter probably can mix an album if he wants to.
I was going to say,
he's capable of that.
Yeah. It's got a quite amusing cameo from Lionel Richie, and it's okay.
Well, that's good, because the trailer, I was like, oh no, I don't know. Fun. I mean, it is obviously going to be what it is, and that's intentional.
And I think that's it. It's exactly what you expect from the Foo Fighters. Terrible acting. Dave himself is pretty good, actually. The rest of the band, not so much. Some nice kills, some really gory, cool kills. There's one in particular with a chainsaw, which is brilliant.
Right.
I really love that kill. Some of the scenes go on a little bit too long. There are scenes where they're trying to find inspiration. There's a couple of jokes where they first move in, and they say to Dave, "Oh, what's your idea for our next song?" And he plays, I think it's Evermore. He plays one of their big hits. Is it Evermore? And then he plays.
Yeah. Why not?
Everlong, sorry.
Everlong. There you go. Yeah.
He plays Everlong, and they're like, "Isn't that just that?" And he's like, "Oh, is it? Okay. Well, how about this?" And then he plays. I can't remember what fucking tune it is now. He plays another one, and
so he basically off the top of his head comes up with all of their big hits, just like
yeah. And he's completely burnt out. He's got nothing, which was quite funny.
Yeah.
There are loads of references to other horror movies. Loads of little sort of bits and pieces that are actually quite amusing. But like you said, it's definitely one of those. Oh, you know what you're getting, and it is literally that. It's kind of like an extended music video.
I kind of expected that somewhat.
Yeah,
which is fine,
And I think that the director has done music videos, so I think he's a camera guy, and he's done some. Oh yeah, he directed Slayer, the Relentless Killer.
Oh, okay.
So he's got a lot of that Slayer things, and so you think, okay, right, so we know where we are here, and yeah, it's pretty well directed actually. It's not too bad.
Good.
I think, like I said, I think some of the scenes are a little too long. I think you could probably have shaved off 10-15 minutes from the overall length. And again, it's only an hour 40 minutes sort of movie. Yeah. But some of the bits just hang on just that little bit too much.
Sure. Yeah.
But when they get to some of the kills and things, it's actually quite funny.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've always thought Pat Smear, bless him, he always looks like someone's dad who should be doing accounts somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is nothing to dispel that. He still looks like somebody's dad who should be doing accounts somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. I mean, the music's great because it's some of the makeup's really good. Some of the effects are okay. You can tell some of the CG blood and things, but that's kind of standard practice for low budget movies. And I think this was a pretty low budget. It wasn't a high thing. And it's exactly that. I think I could recommend it to anybody who just wants to watch a silly horror movie.
Yeah, and
it's it's got a very puerile sense of humor.
Sure.
It's which you kind of expect from a rock band, really.
Yeah.
So it's that's all fine. Some of the characters, some of the other characters are very annoying. I mean, weirdly, their manager, I've seen him in loads of stuff, and he's a really good actor, but for some reason he was so over the top in this. And maybe they did say to him, look, just go over the top. Just, Jeff Garlin. It's like, maybe just go over the top, do what you want, sort of thing. And he is so over the top come the end. You're like, oh, this is almost unbearable to watch. But
right, yeah,
it's fine. Yeah, it's a fun horror movie. It's not nothing special, but it is. If you want to see the Foos do their thing, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know whether to go next or whether to go after, because you got one more film, right?
I got one more film, one more series. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go now, and we can decide what we want to do. So I got back from seeing The Northman on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that day, my housemate was going to see Doc Strange.
Okay.
And the Multiverse of Madness. And I got back, and I was like, hey, I thought you'd be at Doc Strange. And he was like, oh, my friend cancelled. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I could tell he really wanted to go. And I was like, dude, I've just come back from The Northman. I can't follow up The Northman with Doctor Strange in the same day. I just can't do it. And I was tired. I was like, you know when you've watched a movie, especially when it's like investing, you're like, oh, yeah. I'm kind of done now, Oh,
well, I couldn't imagine going to see.
Yeah, and also it's like a pub crawl, isn't it? You wanna start with the bad ones and then with the good ones, not the other way around, right? So I was like, but I was like, right, if you don't go today, if you go today, cool, because I don't care. But if you end up going, if you don't go and you still haven't gone tomorrow and you want to go, I'll go with you tomorrow. So the following day, I went to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, this should be good.
Well, okay. Well, I will say, I'll start with the good. It's directed by Sam Raimi, and amazingly,
which when we heard was like, oh god, Sam Raimi, and then we sort of thought about it and thought, yeah, but it's going to be a Marvel movie.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I was really worried about that. I was like, it's Marvel Disney, because of course Sam Raimi, obviously horror legend. I think Sam Raimi is Marmite to people, and you either love that direction style or you don't. I love it, right? I love his style.
I mean, the thing that people forget about Raimi is that his favorite things are like Marx Brothers and what is Three Stooges, and he's got that. That's his sense of humor. He loves slapstick and silliness.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and that, I am pleased to say, actually shows in a lot of this film. I was quite surprised at how much it actually, in places, feels like a Sam Raimi movie. It looks like a Sam Raimi movie. There are plenty of references in there to like Evil Dead films and other things, so It actually does feel in places like a Sam Raimi movie. I would also say I think the performances across the board are very good. I think everyone acts very well throughout with what they're given. But this film
is, despite the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch has been in some terrible things, and he's
a great actor, though.
He says some
fine actor
things at times. He's a good actor,
and so is Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah,
I think she's fantastic.
Yeah.
So one of the things which I know, obviously, I knew going in, right? I knew going in this was not the point of this movie. Excuse me. I knew that it wasn't. It wasn't centered around this character, so I knew he wasn't gonna be the main center point of the movie. But it annoyed me immediately from the moment this movie was advertised.
Yeah.
I felt like I was invested and interested in Mordo's character in Doctor Strange. I love this idea of this magic wielder who's decided that the natural order must be maintained, and that anyone going against the natural order should be dealt with, and that needs to stop. And that's interesting character and an interesting kind of opposition to Doctor Strange.
They set him up as the bad guy in the end of the first one.
Yes,
and then
I think nowhere.
They kind of dropped the ball with him, haven't they?
Well, it feels that way because he turns up in this movie. Mordo is in this movie, but it's not Mordo from from our Doc Strange's the 616 universe. It's Mordo from a parallel, and you get some lines of dialogue between the two where you're like, okay, but it's not the real Mordo that we know, and so it's not Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to kind of shoehorn in that story, but it's not the same person, so it doesn't quite work that way.
It feels like it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah, that's the thing. But I think it really does, because I think the first one did a good job of outlining Mordo's reasoning and Mordo's motives going forward, and I think it would have made for a really interesting sequel. Now maybe they'll do it in the next film or something, who knows, because obviously they've kept the actor around, and you know, he's fantastic, so maybe they will come back to it. But I did feel a bit slighted by the fact that Mordo pretty much gets the shaft and is swapped out. I think as well, you know, for a film called Multiverse of Madness, there's a really cool scene where we see, like, I don't know, 10 different multiverses. We're kind of they're falling through different multiverses, and there's some really interesting ones, like where it's like they're all made of paint and things like that. It's really cool. But they only really go to one primarily, and then another one right at the end. So you don't really get to see many multiverse variants. It's just like our world, the 800 and something world, and then this other world at the end, this other one. So it's basically only the two. This is a problem when you've got magic people, really. I think, like, it causes issues, but you have to. The trouble is, I will be happy with any nonsense that a film gives me, right? Like Moonfall, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, in this movie, I guess the moon's gravitational pull doesn't matter, right? I'll accept that, right? I'll accept that as your premise, if that's what you want me to do. Where I fail is when a film or a film series introduces things and then decides to drop them or ignore them as they see fit for any given scene.
Yeah, you have. We've said this many times about superhero movies. You have to establish that what your character can do with them in that universe.
Yes.
And then stay with it.
And stick with it, right? So we know that these... What are they? Are they wizards? Or are they...
sorcerers.
Sorcerers, thank you. Yeah. There we go, Sorcerer Supreme. Sorry, I was trying to think of the word in my head, and I was, like, failing to come up with the word. So we've established that these sorcerers, they've got, like... They can... In the first movie, we got sling rings, which makes you teleport anywhere you want, or open portals anywhere you want. You've got the mirror dimension. And then at the start of this movie, giant squid attacks in the middle of New York or wherever they are.
Yeah.
And they're fighting it for, like, what feels like 20 minutes, and at no point do they just go, well, let's just chuck it in the mirror dimension, where it can't harm anyone, as established in the first movie, or just sling ring it into space or something. Done. Problem solved, right? Like, no, let's fight it for 20 minutes in the middle of a busy New York street where people are probably getting killed as collateral. Things like that really bug me, and it's like you have to go through this whole movie kind of ignoring a lot of what Doc Strange could do in previous films to make the logic of this film work, because otherwise you can just deal with it, you know, like problems can be dealt with. That is always
one of the problems with having a character like Strange, is the fact that he can do so much.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how like much into spoilers we wanted to go, which is why I was like, maybe I should do this at the end or whatever.
I think everything's been spoiled, hasn't it?
Okay, well, I don't think... Right, if you don't want spoilers, give it a couple of minutes. But I don't think this is much of a... I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say that Wanda is the villain of this movie.
Yeah.
I think most people...
I think everybody knows now that it's her movie.
Which I was pleased about at first, because I have not watched any Marvel film other than Black Widow. I have not watched anything Marvel related since Endgame, right? So I haven't seen any of the TV shows, but I have read about them and I've heard about them. And from what I hear, I was like, there's no way you can have Wanda be the good guy after what she did in WandaVision, right?
Yeah, but
she literally enslaved a town.
The thing is that she's not a bad guy for that, though, is she?
Well, that to me, I was like, they're like, she enslaved a town against their will, like an entire town of like men, women, and children.
And then they say, "Oh, you'll never know what she's been through." It's like, what about all those poor?
What about all of those people?
Well, good. Yeah.
Well, in this movie, she is thoroughly beyond redemption, and her logic and reasoning is just weird.
Yeah.
Really weird. So in WandaVision, and that's the other thing as well, if you don't know what happened in other movies like or TV shows, luckily I've read up on it enough, you've got no hope. Because like if I didn't know what happened at the end of WandaVision, I'd be like, what's going on? What is going on? So basically, I gather in WandaVision, she invented some kids out of magic because she's a witch. So she did something where she created these kids. And effectively, this movie is she wants to be with her kids. And she's realized that these made-up kids in our dimension, in another reality, because we established there is an infinite number of multiverses where anything is possible. In another reality, she has seen, by gaining this evil book, and again, there's some Evil Dead vibes there as well. It's kind of, there's a lot of that in this, which is nice. I like it. They established that by having, she establishes through this book, it shows her that there's a multiverse where Wanda is happy with her kids and her kids are real. So she wants that. And to get that, there's a girl, America, who has the ability since birth to swap dimensions. She can go through the multiverse. It's like a natural thing she can just do. And she wants that power for herself. Now, it's weird because there's scenes where Doc Strange is talking to her and he's like, you're justifiably upset or whatever. And she's like, you have no idea. I had to kill the man I love and it didn't mean anything. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything. I guess it's the Thanos thing where Thanos was like, I don't even know your name or whatever. All of that. Yeah. But then it's like, at no point during the movie does she ever mention or even bother looking to see if there's a multiverse where Vision is also alive. She just doesn't care, apparently.
I do find it strange that they just...
She just literally doesn't even bother. Like I don't know whether the actor wasn't available or what, but it's really awkward. Like even a line she could have you could have put a line in there where it's like, I checked through the multiverse and anywhere I go, Vision had to die.
But I've heard it at the end of the series. He exists. He's downloaded himself into a white body or something, and he flew off.
Okay.
So where is he then? Why haven't
I don't know. Well,
she looking for him?
Does not appear in this film, and it's really bizarre. So she's like, I'm gonna steal the powers of this girl, but the girl probably would have just helped her if she just asked for help. I don't really know why she feels the need to steal the powers, and also it's really awkward because there's an infinite number of multiverses, but her plan is to go to the one where Wanda is happily with her kids and kill that version of Wanda so that she can be with the kids. Why don't you go to a version of the multiverse where Wanda's dead but the kids are alive, and then you don't have to bother anyone and everything's happy and fine. Like
style.
It's really bizarre. And I will say that following this film, I mean, I think she was... I haven't seen WandaVision, so I have to say I've only read, so I don't know the full context, and it doesn't sound great, but maybe there was redemption possible after that series, right? She is beyond redemption after this film. They cannot possibly try and turn this around to where she's going to be a hero again. She is now, not only has she enslaved an entire town against her will, she is a mass murderer. She is murdered. Where's that? The camotage or whatever it's called?
Camotage, yeah.
She literally wipes out like pretty much everyone they had there. Like dead. And in fact, one person at the end is like screaming in pain on the floor, and she just walks up to him and like turns him into flames. Just incinerates this guy who's like
she kills all the cameos, doesn't she?
Yes. She does kill all the cameos.
Murders all the cameos.
She murders all the cameos. Who were? I gotta be honest. The whole. I will say though, I'm not really the target audience for this film, and I will say the cameos. One in particular, the cinema I was in went mental. They were so happy. So that's cool. Like it, that's cool.
Prof X one.
No.
Oh, was it the
other one? The other big one.
Well, I would say there's theoretically 3 big ones. Mm-hmm. So I guess Krasinski one then.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There was like
which
audible.
Just feels like baiting and murder. You know
well,
what I mean?
they've done this weird thing where, because they all turn up and then they're all dead within 5 minutes.
Yeah, everybody wants this casting. They've cast him for this thing, and then they've killed him.
Yeah.
It is theoretically.
I mean, it's kind of he's really dumb as well. Are we naming him?
Yes, he's Mr. Fantastic.
It's Mr. Fantastic, who is an absolute fucking idiot in this film.
Yeah, the smartest man in the Marvel universe.
He comes across
the
smartest man in the universe comes across the strongest witch ever, who is traveling traveling dimensions kind of, and is going to wipe out everyone. And he thinks he can stop her by stretching at her. Ooh, I'm going to stretch at you menacingly, and that will stop you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's literally his entire plan. Is just, I'm going to stretch at you. Like, okay, buddy. Yeah, and the obviously in the trailer we see that Professor X is obviously going to be Patrick Stewart, which is weird. Why didn't you have McAvoy? Would have made more sense, but fine.
He's in the 90s TV series, the cartoon.
Well, I'm wondering now, because I was like, well, that's really dumb, because you're not going to have Patrick Stewart unless they've done a Mark Hamill in Disney and they've gone like, hey, we'll buy your rights and your face and stuff and just digitalize you for all eternity. Unless they've done that, I thought, like, this doesn't work, because like everyone else, I'm assuming that everyone else we've seen as an alternate in that scene is probably going to end up being their counterpart in the real world, because some of them are the counterpart in the 616, right? So that makes sense, but then you're like, well, you're not going to have Patrick Stewart again. So my assumption is from this that we're basically saying that McAvoy's going to be in it as Professor X. I'm assuming, because that's kind of the established of that universe.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of hope so.
Well, I do, because I think McAvoy was fantastic, and I hope that Fassbender is also going to be Magneto. Because if you're going to get me to watch another X-Men movie, that would go some way towards convincing me to watch it. But yeah, really messy plot.
Better off just recasting all of them.
Yes, but then you've got this weird thing where everyone from the multiverse looks like their 616 counterparts, except for Xavier, who looks like someone completely different now. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of weird. I don't know why they did it, because what a perfect time to bring in and introduce your new Professor X actor.
Yeah.
This would have been the place to do it.
I'm guessing they didn't want to go that far.
I guess so. But yeah,
that would mean they have to plan into really far ahead.
True. So that entire cluster of scenes in the middle just really felt like a waste of time to me. I get that, like, for people who want to see all the different variants, is cool. But in terms of the plot, it was like, we're just stalling the plot here to just have a bunch of cameos in the middle and then move on with nothing really happening.
I have heard that one of the only real Raimi bits is the zombie Strange stuff.
I would argue that there's a lot more than that. There's quite a few moments. There's some moments with Wanda that are very very Evil Dead early on, including her using a mirror like Walter and stuff, which is straight from Evil Dead, and she kind of comes through reflections and things. There's a lot of zoom, that quick zoom that Raimi does when, like, Wanda's hearing things and stuff. But yeah, the zombie Strange is very much very Raimi. It's very like Evil Ash.
Yeah. Does he sing the Little Goody Two Shoes?
He doesn't, unfortunately, which would have been wonderful. But yeah, so it also introduces, and thank God they get rid of it by the end of the movie, but it also introduces a magic book that's not the magic book that Wanda's got. It's a different magic book. And this magic book can give a sorcerer, the power to defeat or solve any problem whatsoever in the entire universe. And apparently they knew about this when Thanos invaded, but just didn't use it, I guess.
Oh.
Don't know why. But anyway, it's gone now, so we don't have to worry about that going forward, thank God. But it did raise some questions in my brain where I was like, hang on a minute. How many people died? You could have just used that thing? Okay. But yeah, so I will say I'm really glad that Sam Raimi's direction was here. Full, it was on full display in places, which really pleased me, because I thought it was going to look like the generic Marvel movie that we get nowadays. I'm assuming that Raimi has a bit of swing to kind of be like, actually, it's going to look a bit like my movies if I'm going to do it.
I think the rumor is that he's been given this in lieu of maybe directing Spider-Man 4.
Okay.
That's the rumor, and I don't know whether that
well, that could be interesting. That could be very interesting. But yeah, so I was really glad to see Raimi's direction here, and I think the cast were fantastic. All of them, they were fine. Just a lot of continuity issues, which I guess, well, how many movies are we into this Marvel Cinematic Universe? I guess that was probably inevitable.
I think.
Yeah, I guess that was inevitable. But it just, and continuity like between the first Doc Strange movie and this movie is kind of like, well, even if you're ignoring everything else, like there's obvious powers that they have that you're, for the sake of this scene, you're just ignoring that they have just to make the scene work. So
I think that again, there's always been one of those problems with superhero movies, isn't it? It's, you have to forget about certain powers to make certain situation work.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I guess maybe it is a fundamental problem with superhero sequels. It's that old video game thing, right? You start the game as like a peasant.
Yeah.
And a nobody, and you end the game as like the all-powerful sorcerer, and then in the next game you have to lose all of your powers, because otherwise where are we going to go with it?
Exactly. By the start of episode 2, all of your weapons have been taken away.
Somehow I've lost everything. Gone. Yeah, I knocked my head and now I have forgotten everything. Must start over. So yeah, I guess maybe it suffers from that a little. It's not like the worst film I've ever seen. It's very messy. There are some nice bits, though. I will say there are some nice moments.
To be honest, it just sounds like a terrible bait and switch. The whole it's supposed to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because I mean initially we were told by I can't remember.
I would say
it was the original director. I can't remember who was the original director.
I don't honestly know. Oh, by the way, it says at the end of this movie, and I could be getting the wording wrong, but I swear at the end of this movie, as the credits are rolling, it says directed by Sam Raimi, but then at the end it says a Kevin Feige film.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not. It's a Sam Raimi film if it's directed by Sam Raimi. Like, what the hell?
Not if it's Marvel. He's got to have his little name.
Yeah, I guess he's like the king of movies now.
I think it was Scott Derrickson who did the first one. I think he was supposed to do, and he promised a proper horror movie, didn't he?
Well, that was the idea, and then they got Raimi on board, and I was like double down on the horror.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say it's the most horrific that the Marvel Universe has gotten. It's certainly got some of the darkest scenes. It's definitely got some horror elements, but it's not a horror movie. But it certainly has some horror elements. It's got some wonderful visuals as well in places. It's really, really good to look at in places.
Yeah, I mean, you do kind of expect that from...
Yeah, you get the trippiness that you want from Doc Strange, right? But yeah, it's not the worst film I've ever seen, but it's very messy. And to be honest, like, I think a lot of the movie, like the multiverse, the other universe we go to, that all just felt like pointless filler, really, for the most part. But yeah, like I said, it's not the worst film I've ever seen. It's not really for me, though, to be honest. It's not my kind of movie, so...
I guess, is it better than Iron Man 3, or...
No, I would
Iron
say...
Man 2, or... What's the other... Oh, well, did you enjoy it more than the last Thor movie?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think that the last Thor movie was...
We are the
I know we're in the minority here.
Minority that we fucking hate that movie.
So I hate that movie because of its awful use of comedy in really bad places. Like, we've just had
genocide.
We've just had genocide, and an entire race of people is now dead. And then there's like a joke about, it could be saved. It's fine. The foundations are fine, and then everything explodes, and that's hilarious. It's like, well, it reminds me of that Lone Ranger movie. Remember that Lone Ranger movie with Johnny Depp? That was the same, where it's like literally you've just killed a load of people, but let's have a joke. It's like, well, really?
That movie did not know what tone it was going for.
No.
That movie is like 5 different movies.
Yeah. So I would say that the Thor movie is better because despite the use of comedy, it does have a coherent plot.
Right.
Whereas with this one, I have to forget so many things for it to work and kind of ignore so many things for it to work.
Okay.
At least that Thor movie, you're like, okay, the basic premise works, right?
Mm-hmm.
The logic works of that film, even if I don't agree with the comedy.
Yeah.
So I would say probably. I know that Raimi has said there was about an extra 30 minutes cut, and that might well make a big difference here.
Because people are crying out for the Remy cut, aren't they?
Well, I mean, and maybe with good reason, because it does feel like quite a mess, and maybe that extra 30 minutes will resolve a lot of what I've complained about. That's entirely possible.
Well, I mean, they had massive reshoots, didn't they? So,
yeah.
Who knows what was inserted and what was taken out? I mean,
probably a 20-minute cameo scene that I think might have been added. Feels like it. It feels like there was very little need for it.
Again, learning the wrong things.
Well, potentially. I don't know. Like I said, it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing ever. But I did have a lot of issues with it. Having said that, the superhero movies are kind of done for me, so it's not my kind of thing. But I will say, even my housemate who loves Marvel movies, first thing he said when we left was, "Wow, that was a real mess." So take that for what it is. If you love all the Marvel stuff, there's plenty to like here. The performances are great, the visuals are great. Sam Raimi, great director, and for the most part, you can see a lot of his style in there. So yeah, it's fine if you're happy to kind of ignore a lot of the issues that I think are kind of rampant in this film. But like I said, I will say that Wanda is like clearly beyond redemption now. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. But yeah, so that was WandaVision, and you have another film to talk about,
I do. So I watched The Contractor.
Yes, The Contractor, starring Chris Pine.
So this is it's an Amazon movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it Chris Pine, Gillian Jacobs, what's the name? Ben Foster.
Yeah.
And Kiefer Sutherland. Very
excellent.
Briefly. So
have you noticed a lot of really good actors have fallen into that, like William Dafoe and stuff? It's like they just turn up for a little bit, but they're brilliant when they turn up.
Yeah. So basically, we're introduced to Chris Pine's character, who is a Marine, and he has been going through sort of a rehab. He was injured in combat, his knees torn up, and he's been basically recouping in his own way, and he's got a wife played by Gillian Jacobs and a son, and he's called in by superiors, and they say, "We found all these drugs in your blood work."
Right.
And his new commander basically says, "I'm not going to tolerate that in my unit." He says, "You're like a med guy. You should know better than this." He said, "We're not going to disgrace you, but we are going to take away your pension and your medical."
It sure sounds like you're disgracing me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're not going to...
In everything but name, we're
going to discharge you, but not dishonorably,
right.
Just discharge you without your benefits.
Yeah.
So he goes home, and they've got debts piling up, and one of his other soldiers, other Marines, kills himself. So they go to the funeral, and he meets up with Ben Foster's character, who's another one of his friends. And he says to him, "Oh, I've been working for, contracts." He says, "I can get you a job." He says, "It's really, really good money. Most of the time it's doing very little."
Mm.
And initially he says sort of no. His wife really doesn't want him to do it.
Right.
But like I said, bills are piling up. Shit's going wrong, so he takes the job with Kiefer Sutherland's character, Rusty, who's this sort of, I think he's a colonel or something, but he runs this sort of mercenary outfit, and then they have to. He get the job is to go to Berlin, and they've got intel on this guy who is working on viruses. He's been working on viruses and all that sort of stuff. So they've got to go in, they've got to kill him, and they've got to take all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Not really spoiling it to say that it obviously doesn't turn out so well. So you do get a sort of, I don't know, a slight sort of Jason Bourne thing. Is that he's now on his own and he's got to try and get back to his family type thing. The first 20 minutes of this movie is almost done documentary style.
Okay.
It's kind of it's almost like the camera and stuff. It's away from them. It's stood back from them, and you're following him around while he's doing some of his rehab, and he's running, and you can see him sort of cleaning his gun, and he's got this caravan in the middle of nowhere that he goes to, and he goes home and he talks to his wife, and you get these sort of flashbacks to when his dad, like there's a scene where you get a flashback where I don't know how old he is, but he looks like he must be about 10.
Right.
But his dad's taking him to a tattoo parlor, and he's getting a American flag tattooed on his arm. So you get that feeling that his dad was obviously a hard ass Marine, and
it's gonna look great as his skin stretches with age, and he gets
Yeah. So his dad basically killed himself, and he says to his wife at one point, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm not going to do that. But you can see that when he gets basically fired, you can see that it's getting to him, and there's this what I thought was a really beautifully done scene. His wife comes home, and it's like nighttime, and he's on the roof of the house fixing the roof of the house. And she's just, staring up at him as like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just fixing the roof. It's like, but it's the middle of the night. It's like, yeah, it's fine. It just needed doing. I just thought I'd get on with it. It's like, where's our son? It's like, oh, he's asleep. It's fine. And she's just terrified that he's going to do something stupid. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was a really, really well done scene. I think he's great in it. Chris Pine's really, really good. I think... sadly, Ben Foster isn't in it enough, and I think the main reason I watched this is because I thought Pine and Foster were in Hello High Water, which I think is an amazing movie.
Yeah,
and their chemistry in that movie was so great. This doesn't have anywhere near that level of greatness. The fight scenes, there were fight scenes where they're out in the open and there were shots everywhere. And it's like, how is he not just getting murdered? He's not in any cover. They're on a stretch of the river, and he's like on the edge of the river at one point, and there were good 5 or 6 guys in different angles shooting at him, and they're all missing.
Right.
It's like, how? He's just there. He's not in cover. What the fuck? So the fight scenes are a little rubbish.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious what's going to happen. It's kind of there's a nice little cameo from Eddie Marzan again, doing his slightly dodgy American accent. But yeah, he's great for the 5 minutes he's in it. Kiefer Sutherland's okay for the 5 minutes he's in it as well. There are some strange decisions that I don't really get. There's the whole idea of, so how much do I say without spoiling it?
I don't know.
Obviously, the guy that they go to kill, he's not working on diseases in a bad way. He's working on the cures for them.
Okay.
So obviously, the mercenary group that there was obviously hired by someone who wants to cure so that they can make money off of it when whatever virus they unleash, starts making a pandemic, which you just think, okay, another pandemic, great.
Yeah, I really don't. I really don't want pandemics in my escapism.
Aren't we all fucking fed up with pandemics?
I am. I'm done with it.
I mean, you don't get the pandemic in this, but obviously it's a major.
I feel like we're going to be getting pandemic vibes from media for like a decade now. It's going to get very tiresome.
Yeah, I really like the first 20 minutes. The sort of weird, slightly documentary style that they were doing was quite nice. It was interesting. When it starts to get into action territory, and Chris Pine's, he's good enough in the action role. There's nothing bad against him.
Yeah,
I don't think it's terribly well directed, that part of the movie. And like I said, there's some decisions that you just think, well, why did they do that? Why they leave him for dead and then they try to kill him. Okay,
right.
There's no real reason for that.
Okay,
it's one of those times where you go, well, now you've made yourself a bad guy, as it were, by doing something that didn't need to be done.
Yeah.
They could have instead of just trying to kill him, they could have just picked him up and they would have got what they wanted.
Right. Yeah.
It's just stupid little decisions like that. And it's not a bad movie, it's just not a very good one either. There's some nice little bits in it. The Chris Pine's good. Gillian Jacobs, very small part. She's quite good as the wife. I mean, that scene, as I was saying, when she's talking to him and he's on the roof, I thought was really good. It's a nice little scene that should probably be in a better movie.
Yeah.
But it's, I think again, it's a case of if you want a slightly naff action movie, yeah, this'll do.
Yeah, so it scratches that itch, right? But
it's not great, but it's okay. It's not a Bourne movie or a Reacher or that sort of thing. It's as much as it kind of wants to be that sort of thing. Is what it is. I think from the first half an hour, I think it's kind of sets up for one thing and then it becomes generic, terribly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. There's a place for that, But yeah. So you also watched a TV show, I
did. I watched the second season of Russian Doll.
Yes. So tell us all about
the
second season. Because I have not actually watched the first season, but I remember you were a huge fan of it.
So. I loved the first season. So the first season, you had Natasha Lyonne's character and Charlie Barnett's characters, who were doing the Groundhog Day of sort of they were dying, and waking up in the same day again. Mm-hmm. And it had this really sort of interesting heart to it that I really liked, and I did the main character could be infuriating at times, but I think for most of it you're with her and she's really funny.
Yeah. And
she's kind of over all this stuff, and she's got this history with her mother who sort of had a mental illness, and she's got this sort of friend who looked after her. So the second season kind of picks up a little after the first season, and this time round, whenever she goes on the subway, whenever she gets on the subway train, she ends up basically quantum leaping into her mother's body.
Okay. And back again, just kind
of. Yeah, so she ends up in the 80s. She I like the initial setup when she's walking around and she suddenly noticed she's in this carriage that just looks run down and very 80s.
Yeah. And
there's all these like punks and coppers wearing 80s uniforms, and she's like, this is very funny, this is really good, this is well done, I like this. And then she gets out, and of course there's a guy who's like reacting to her really funny, and it's like I am going to spoil it slightly, in that this guy says to her, "Oh, would you like my seat?" And she sort of looks at him funny, and he says, she says, "I'm not going to fuck you," and he goes, "Certainly not," and he walks off, and you think that was a weird reaction. And then there's like this other guy who's like, "Are you okay? Are you lost? Are you?" And she keeps getting these weird reactions. And then, of course, when she realizes she's in her mother's body
Pregnant.
with her pregnant.
Yeah. Okay. That's
So
stuff. Yeah. Fine.
she's in her mother's body with her own.
Yes. She's carrying herself. It's very
pregnancy,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really nice little bits there. It is not as good as the first season.
Oh, that's a shame.
It did keep me going. I did still enjoy it. Her character becomes even more obnoxious, which is a slight problem for me. It's like, oh, come on, you don't. She does a couple of things that you just think, oh, why are you being such an ass?
Right.
I mean, she was obnoxious in the first one, but it was kind of
charming in a weird way. It
was quirky. By the time you get here, it's not so charming anymore, and she does learn. Basically, it's to do with her grandmother brought. She brought back a load of stuff from I think Austria when she was a girl. She was during the Second World War, and she ended up buying these gold coins.
Right.
And it was supposed to be like their inheritance, but her mother lost them at some point. She either spent them, or I think you think at first that she spent all the coins.
Right.
But it's more. She finds out that they were stolen, and then she does. She ends up in later on. She ends up in the body of her grandmother, and the stuff where she's learning about her family and what they've been through and what it's like to be them, that stuff was interesting. The character of Alan, Charlie Barnett's character, it feels like they did not know what to do with him at all. He gets real short shrift in this. Right. He ends up in his mother's body. No, is it grandmother's body? Oh, I can't remember whether it's his mother or his grandmother's body. But he ends up with his, I'm going to say mother. I think it might be grandmother. But he ends up in his mother's body, and she was a student, a Guyanan student in Germany during the Berlin Wall period.
Right.
I think it's I think it's the 60s. So it must be his grandmother. I think it's his grandmother. So he ends up in his grandmother's body, and she's this Nigerian student or Ghanaian student in Germany. And there's this sort of stuff with her helping people get tunneling under the wall and stuff. But it's so sort of incidental, and it's like it just feels like they couldn't quite decide what to do with him. So he gets really sort of sidelined in this season.
Right.
And at the end of it, it was a case of, I know she learned stuff about her family, but it felt very unsatisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it. But
but it's not.
I certainly didn't enjoy. I mean, the good thing is they're short episodes. They're only half an hour long, and they're only I think it's 6 episodes per season.
Right.
8 episodes per season.
Okay. So it's not. Yeah.
So
it's not a massive investment.
So it's not. No. It's they're quite short. But the first one felt like they had a really good idea, and they knew what they were doing, and they had everything planned out. The second season feels like they had a sort of idea, but they didn't quite know what they were doing with it. And like I said, the other main character, they felt like they just didn't know what to do with at all. I probably would honestly say just watch the first season.
Right. And does the first season not end with a cliffhanger?
Not exactly.
No.
It has an end where
it kind of works on its own.
Stuff out. They've kind of sorted out what was happening. And it feels like that was actually a good ending. They could have ended it there, and I think I certainly would have been satisfied. It was fine. I think the second season you don't need. So I would say watch the first season by all means. Second season, I think only if you really want to.
Yeah.
I think you might be better off leaving it. Like I said, the thing is that there are some great scenes in it. There's some really nice little touches when she's talking to the woman who sort of helped bring her up, Ruth, the character of Ruth, who looked after her and was her mum's friend.
Yeah.
Her interactions with the younger version of her are really good. The stuff with Ruthie is really nice. But it just felt unnecessary.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So, yeah.
Ah, well. I guess stick with season 1.
Overall, not a great week for me, but...
No, I mean, I don't know. Moonfall sounds like it might be quite fun.
I think if I was to recommend one, it would probably be Studio 666, I think.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of fun, to be fair. And obviously for me it would be The Northman, which is presumably, according to my friend, out on Friday streaming. So definitely worth grabbing. Mm-hmm. I know that also tomorrow, but I don't know where, Shin Ultraman is releasing tomorrow, but I don't know if it's only in Japan. I'm hoping that I can get,
Guess would probably.
And then I'm like left with because I know I'm going to end up buying it. I'm left with the issue of like, do I just watch it in Japanese? Because I could do that. And I have done that before. But then, you generally don't know what the fuck is going on. But then there's part of me that's like, I really want to see this film. And I will buy it when it comes over here. But, so I don't know. But yeah, that's out tomorrow. And I also know that the Michelle Yeoh movie is out tomorrow.
Yes.
Absolutely Everywhere or whatever it's called.
Yep, I think I'm going to go see that.
That looks like a much better multiverse film. I was really hoping that would have been out this week because I would have liked to have done both next to each other as kind of, multiverse movies. But that looks like a lot of fun, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Because I already know what we're reviewing next week, which is nice. It's not normal. We discussed it. Or have you got a different idea?
No, I wasn't sure whether we completely...
I don't mind. I don't mind if you've got different ideas. I'm open to it.
Well, you tell me what you thought we were doing, and...
Oh, well, I thought we discussed doing Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes.
But I'm not bothered. We could do something else.
No. I
Smokey and the Bandit.
There was one other thing that I thought...
Oh, what was the other thing?
That you mentioned as well, which was Death Becomes Her.
Oh, I definitely want to do that at some point. But...
So Smokey and the Bandit is, yes.
Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit. Bit of fun.
Yeah.
Bit of fun.
So yes, there one thing we should mention. Dennis Waterman.
Oh yeah,
passed away. 74.
Yeah, a massive talent.
I love Dennis Waterman. As a kid, I absolutely loved Minder.
Mm-hmm.
And I even watched New Tricks, later.
Yeah.
And he was in one of the Dracula movies. He was in Sweeney. And a really nice actor. I really like Dennis Waterman.
Yeah, I think he's tremendously talented, and like you, I mean, I grew up with a lot of those things on UK Gold and whatever. Yeah. So same.
Really brilliant actor.
Fantastic.
So shall we talk about the new Doctor?
Yeah, so Ncuti Gatwa, I think is how you pronounce it, has been cast as the 14th or indeterminate number of Doctor incarnations that there now are, presumably infinite incarnations. Who knows?
I think it depends on who you count.
Yeah, well, yes, it's either it's all very. It was muddy when you had the War Doctor, but now it's even more muddy because apparently there were incarnations going back through the history of the universe. So
no, the fucking isn't.
Infinite number. So Russell T Davies. Weird. I was like, this is bizarre that they've. I miss the days of the big announcement. I used to like the big announcement thing.
I like the big announcement. I mean,
I gather.
I didn't like it when they did that TV show. That was terrible.
Oh, that was Matt Smith, wasn't it? When they did the TV show?
That was the Capaldi one, wasn't it?
Oh, they did do one for Matt Smith where it was like a recap thing, talking about the Doctor, and then at the end he was like, "Hello."
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean the one when it was like live audience and he came out and was like, "Oh, look, it's me." That was awful. But I gather that it was going to be leaked, so they just did it.
Yeah,
to stop
that's
the leak.
what it feels like, doesn't it?
But yeah, so Russell T Davies
apparently he was cast in February, so
yeah, he said he was cast in February and he's kept it quiet since then. But I know they're filming this week, so I guess they had to announce it pretty much now anyway. But Russell T Davies said that he was the last audition, which is astounding. To come in that late when presumably everyone who is doing those castings is fed up, has seen a million people and just wants to go home. To come in and impress like that is very impressive. That's very good. I think he's a great actor, actually, from what I've seen of him. I've seen some of Sex Education. I think
I did. I've seen the first season. Second season lost me, so I kind of
I've not seen, like, I wouldn't say I've even seen a season. I've seen a couple of episodes, but he seems really good. He's an accomplished actor.
He's fine.
I'm pretty excited, to be honest. I'm a sucker for regeneration, though. I'm always like I always have that, like,
I mean, I'm gonna watch the regeneration just to see Jodie go.
Yes. There's
some shouting Freud going on there.
I mean, the thing is, I don't even I feel bad even saying that, because I think like we discussed earlier, Jodie's a great actress. She's a great actress. I will go to celebrate Chibnall leaving as a fucking showrunner, because he is dreadful and the writing has just been awful, and he's even admitted now.
Yeah,
like all of these things that people have been saying this whole time, where like people that defended it were like, no, there's a big plan, there's a plan. It's not like
he had no fucking plan. He had no idea what he was doing.
He was winging it. Which also,
fuck would you admit to that?
Well, I did think it's entirely possible that he's lying, and that the final episode that he's doing, the centenary, will actually sum up all these things, and he just said it to kind of just get removed from the fact. I don't know though, because it's made him seem like a complete moron. And if it's true, that means we're not getting any answers in the centenary, which is like, okay, great. So you're not going to bother answering anything that you've set up. Or you're just going to leave that all dangling. It was a mystery box all along. So really messy. So I'm looking forward to Chibnall going. I still feel really bad for Jodie Whittaker, to be honest. I think she's a fine actress, and I think if they'd given her decent scripts, she probably could have done a really good job.
And pointers on how to play. I mean,
well, I'm assuming that comes down to direction as well. Yeah. Because they don't just. I'm guessing you don't pick your doctor's personality as well. Surely that has to come down to the showrunner and the writers, right? To an extent, or maybe it's like a collaborative process.
I think it depends on who's playing the Doctor, because I think when you've got someone like Tom Baker, it's very hard to direct Tom Baker to do anything but be Tom Baker.
Very true, but I do feel at the same time, their casting is much more choiceful. You cast Tom Baker because you want Tom Baker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think.
Whereas Jodie has quite a lot of range as an actor, so I feel like she.
Yeah, she's been in some great stuff.
But yeah, it's the writing for me. It's the writing.
She was playing a terrible Tennant knockoff.
Yes.
And
yes.
Just that fucking annoying thing.
It's the annoying traits from Tennant and Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Just rolled into
she just
one.
I hated the way she used the sonic screwdriver like a wand.
I also this is a nitpick, because this is not even close to the problems I have with the writing of Doctor Who recently. I feel like I intrinsically hate anyone that uses the word fam.
Oh,
like that's like the most petty thing I could possibly say. But it makes me cringe every time it's said. It's horrendous. No, but the writing has been awful.
It was because I think they didn't know what a female Doctor should be.
Just the Doctor.
It's
not like, that.
I think they should have made her slightly more matriarchal. You know what I mean? Like, a little more stern, a little more, I guess, maybe, my brain says, maybe if they would have picked an actress with a bit more gravitas about her, you know what I mean? Like,
that was the problem.
Older actress that.
Well, that was the problem we had as well, wasn't it? Is that partway through season 2 or something, we're introduced to the other Doctor, Ruth Doctor.
Yeah.
And she's way better. Like, if we'd had her from the start, she was way more like the Doctor. As soon as she's around, you're like, yeah, I buy that you are the Doctor. You've got that kind of gravitas and that kind of presence.
Because, I mean, by the sounds of it, that character wasn't even supposed to be the Doctor.
No, according to the article that Chibnall did for Doctor Who magazine, they pulled it out of their ass, like, a few days before. They were like, or not days, but
you really didn't know what you were you literally were making it up as you were.
So it was originally just an alien fugitive, and then at some point, according to this article, Chibnall just came along and went, wouldn't it be funny?
Yeah.
If we just shoehorn in this being another Doctor. Like, okay.
I would be happy with her being a Doctor from another universe.
Or a future Doctor. I've always said, I always wanted to this day, I still want a multi-Doctor story where the Doctor meets the future incarnation. That would be awesome. That's a really cool thing that they've not done, where it's like, actually, this is a version you've not seen yet. It's the next regeneration. That's a cool way to introduce them.
Did you ever read any of the Short Trips books? Short Trips and
No, I didn't.
Steps and stuff. There are a couple of short stories where there's a Doctor with frizzy ginger hair wearing an Afghan coat.
Oh, nice.
And there's a couple with that Doctor in, and he's, blatantly a future Doctor.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I always like the idea of that.
I love the idea.
Which always made me laugh. I don't know whether it was a conscious decision about am I ginger?
Am I ginger? Yeah, maybe. They did used to reference a lot of Big Finish and novelization stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at
8.
Which one?
8.
No, I was going to say the
because they canonized pretty much all of the Big Finish stuff in that 8 short.
Yeah. No, I was thinking the oh Christ, what's it called? Human Behavior? Is it the one with where
Human Nature?
Human Nature. That's the one. The one where he's
when he uses the fob watch.
He becomes a
really good episode.
That's the 7th Doctor story.
Yes, it is. Yes, I remember reading about that. Yeah,
which I have somewhere.
I've never read it, but I remember reading that was the case back then.
It's not Ace. It's
one of the other ones.
What is it, Ace? Fuck, I can't remember now. It's been a while since I read it.
Feels like it would work very well with Ace, actually.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, I can't remember whether it's Ace or whether it's one of the later assistants in books.
In fact, I think it would work better with Ace than it would with Martha. Because Ace is like, the way Ace is, like, Ace having to kind of, like, be the sensible one would be. By
that point, Ace is the Dalek killer. She's the.
Oh, okay. So it's like future.
She's the jumpsuit wearing Dalek killer by that point.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, the only thing that sort of bothers me about this casting is it's the whole idea that immediately, like when they announced it, I looked, I thought, okay, I've seen that guy. I think he's great.
Yeah,
that's fine. And then immediately at the BAFTAs, they ask him, and they pull out the inclusion and diversity and getting our message out there, and it's like, for fuck's sake, just no, don't fucking mention shit like that. We just want to see him do a good job.
I just want some
the fact that
well-written Doctor
Who, as they
Who.
say, he ticks 2 boxes. It's like, I don't want to be thinking about the fact that he ticks 2 boxes. I just want him to play a good Doctor.
Yeah, and I think he will. I think he will. And the writing, I mean, the writers they've got now have written some of the best Doctor Who.
I didn't know what.
I was looking up one of the writers they've announced has like written some of the best of the revival stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's in pretty good hands.
Well, that's good. Because nothing writers they got for the last.
It's been awful. Yeah, it's been dreadful.
Terrible.
And this is kind of what we've always said as well. It is like that whole like I don't think there's anything inherently bad in making something woke, quote unquote woke, as long as it's well written.
Yeah.
If it's well written, it's not a problem. It's when you put that ahead of any logic or plot and you don't think about it, because at that point it's almost insulting when you're just doing it. It's almost a form of tokenization in itself when you do that. When you're just thinking of race and you're not actually considering any nuance around it, any actual thought beyond, hey, you know, like you said, that ticks a box. If you're just box ticking that is offensive. It should be well written, and if it's well written, I don't care. I mean, that's all I want. I just want it well written. I just want well written stories, because Doctor Who, for us old people, Doctor Who was always the show that looked like absolute shit because they had no budget, but the stories were always amazingly well written, and that's what got you through the episodes. And now we're like in a universe where it's all flipped.
All of the stories, but most of the stories.
Well, not all of them, but most of them. But now it's flipped on its head, where we've got all the budget in the world and it all looks amazing, but the writing's just awful, and that's a real shame.
Because that one of the ones that made me quit was the one with was it the Orphan Earth or whatever it was? What was going on with the makeup in that one?
Orphan Earth. Is that the one when it's Earth the whole time?
And she
that's
does that,
terrible. Orphan 54 or something?
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Where she does that fucking speech at the end.
It's terrible. The writing of that episode is really bad.
And
really bad.
The thing that was basically what Barf, wasn't it? She was like Barf from Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Only worse.
It's almost line for line from a sixth Doctor story, I think, actually, as well. Some of that.
The one in the from the Trial of the Time Lords.
Yes.
What's it called? It's the one with what's her name? The one, the Carry On actress.
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head.
Fucking!
I know who you mean. I can picture her.
Jakes. What's her name? I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, that one with the robot. In the underground and stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a writing issue that I have with Doctor Who more than anything else, and I do think, you know, Russell T Davies, fantastic showrunner, brought the show back.
Mm-hmm. But as I said to you,
and a pretty good writer. I mean, to be honest, his writing's good.
As I said to you earlier on, the thing that's always slightly bothered me, even though I love Rose,
we
one of the worst things
definitely agree on this one,
was bringing out the Doctor's sexuality.
Yes, for me, the Doctor should never have fallen in love with anyone. It really annoyed me as well with Rose. I hated it.
I always felt the Doctor was above it. You know, like Time Lords were kind of above that sort of attachment. They were. They didn't. I mean,
they're different species altogether. They're completely different species, and there are many times where the Doctor's like, "Yeah, we look alike, but we're nothing alike."
Yeah,
we're not.
And I mean, I've always questioned whether Susan's really his granddaughter. I mean, there's never really any evidence that says either way.
Well, it's never stated whether she's adopted or whether she's actually his granddaughter.
Yeah. So I kind of always thought she's probably not his real. I mean, there's.
Well, and also, I mean, like early Doctor Who was.
She's not human because of her intelligence and what she knows, or at least she's a human from the future.
Yeah.
But it's never really stated.
Well, early days Doctor Who, I mean, the Doctor only had one heart, and, you know, things like that. A lot of things, like, developed by the time we get to, you know, the with Troughton and stuff, it kind of, we start falling into the, you know.
And I think that's one of those things, annoying, again, it's one of those annoying things that people keep saying about, the Doctor's, the history of the stuff's changed over the years. It's like, it's been
Initially.
It's been added to and changed here and there, but never straight out fucking overwritten.
No, and also I do think that if you're gonna go that extreme with a rewrite, you really need to put the time and effort into writing something amazing to pay that off. And the fact that, according to his own words, he just didn't bother having an answer to any of it and just pulled it out of his ass.
Yep.
The article's online if you want to read it. People have posted it. In fact, I think it caused a bit of an uproar online.
Because he's clearly a fuckwit.
Especially because, like, back in the day, there's that footage of him criticizing Doctor Who, and it's like, dude, dude, you are the worst. But yeah, so I'm hopeful. I think Ncuti seems like a really good actor. I'm excited again. but I'm also kind of cautious. I'm cautiously optimistic now.
I mean, it's just the state of where we are right now just makes us all roll our eyes whenever somebody says stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that that's BBC speak though as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's an element of that.
It is.
But I do think this has all the potential in the world, and we'll see what they do with it.
I mean, the thing is there's so many people.
I think to be honest,
as well, unless they get rid of that whole fucking timeless child shit, I don't. I have
a feeling.
I don't want to come back unless they get rid of that.
I have a feeling they're just going to sidestep it. That's what I think they'll do.
Yeah.
I think they'll do like they did initially with the Time War, where it's like, oh, stuff happened and. You know, and the Eighth Doctor for a long time. The Eighth Doctor for a long time was like, yeah, did it happen? Did it not? Who knows? Ooh. I think they might do that. But I know there are a lot of fans that have like basically said, nope. I know, friend, well, you said to me you wouldn't, until they undo that, you're done.
I just can't do it,
That's fair. I mean, I know my brain works the same way with a lot of things where I'm like, well, you've ruined it. And I like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, to me, I've still not watched season 2 of The Mandalorian. I've seen the scene where Luke comes back, right? Yeah. I've seen it, and it's awesome. It's a really good scene.
It's a great scene.
But I still know where Luke ends up, because in continuity, you have made him end up on that planet drinking alien tit milk.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is like, it doesn't matter how awesome you make him, because he was awesome in the original trilogy, but the character is fundamentally broken by the end, and I have no interest.
I think the good thing now that I've come to is that I just don't consider those movies. Anything after.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's Highlander logic.
Just doesn't exist to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Star Trek. The Star Trek one is even easier because you just go, but that's not our universe.
Yeah, I mean Star Trek.
That's not that's not the Star Trek universe. That's the Kelvin timeline. That's that.
Yeah.
You just keep that over there, and I don't have to fucking touch it.
There's the thing with Star Trek and with all of these properties, really. I mean, not so much Star Wars, although now we're getting there. With Star Trek, there's so much Star Trek that it's like it's fine. I don't need any new Star Trek anyway. So if it's bad, like Picard season 2, I just won't watch it. It's fine. I don't care. I've got like. I don't know how many hours I've got up there on DVD of Star Trek between like. I mean, I've got everything up until up until Discovery, basically.
So,
or the movies.
Say the same thing about Doctor Who. I mean, you've got 60 years of.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the thing. Even if Doctor Who becomes terrible, I'll still be like, well, I've still got the original DVDs.
You just have to make a conscious effort to go.
Yeah,
Pope was the last Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
His Doctor died and didn't regenerate.
I mean, even Capaldi, the writing and a lot of the Capaldi stuff. I mean, Capaldi held it because he's such a good actor, but the writing is terrible. Again, so I'm really hoping that not only do we get a new Doctor, I'm always excited about regeneration, but I'm really hopeful we get back to some decent writing and some decent stories. And I'll be happy. I always knew from the moment they announced that Russell was coming back, I was like, you got me. You got me back for at least 1 or 2 episodes. You've definitely piqued my interest enough. I'm also kind of happy because we've now got Sony investing in it.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like it might be really high budget, looking good, solid.
That point makes me hopeful. There are bits that make me think.
I kind of feel like with the state that the BBC's in, the further it gets divorced from them, the better. I know, obviously, it's still technically BBC, but being shipped out to Bad Wolf, and with Bad Wolf now being owned by Sony, it's effectively a Sony-made project.
Yeah,
I feel like we might get some decent stuff.
For me, though,
I hope
the worst thing I can do is get hopeful.
True. I
don't want to be hopeful, only for it to turn out to be another pile of shit. You know what I mean?
Hey, if you want me to be the canary in the mine, I will do that for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna watch the regeneration episode just because it's gonna be a regeneration.
The end of Chibnall, and it's a regeneration. Yeah.
But whether I watch past
and
that,
presumably because they've announced Shooty, I think there's a good chance we'll actually get to see that regeneration, and we'll get to see Shooty.
Yeah.
At least for a scene, because that's been the tradition, is that the new director comes in, the new showrunner comes in to do that scene. So that'll be interesting.
I saw articles that were saying it's not fair that they've announced his Doctor when Jodie isn't finished.
They've always done that.
But that's how it's always.
They've literally done that since the show's. Actually, no, they've always done that. Because they announced even back in the classic era, they always announced the next Doctor ahead of the last Doctor. Like that's always been a thing, and it's never been a disservice to any of the other ones.
No.
Did you feel that Matt Smith being announced shit all over David Tennant's run? I don't think it did. I don't think it took anything away from David Tennant.
By the time we get to the end of Tennant's run, I was fucking over him anyway.
Well, no, that aside, it didn't diminish.
No, of course
David Tennant's Doctor.
Of course it didn't.
Neither did Capaldi's. Yeah, well, he didn't. I guess that again, and again, that was Russell. So
yeah,
that
his regeneration to this day still infuriates me.
The only bit I like is there's a line from Matt Smith's Doctor in an episode of Sarah Jane Adventures, which I really liked, where he meets up with Jo again, and Jo's talking about how when she left, she always thought he said he'd return for her, and he said he'd like see her again, and she's really upset that he never did, and he says that during his last regeneration he went back and saw all of his companions, so it wasn't just the new Who companions. He went back and saw every single one of them to see how they were getting on, and I thought that was quite nice,
which makes it even more infuriating.
I don't know, there's something quite nice about it. I kind of like
but that's the thing, that's what pisses me off about his regeneration, is that no other Doctor got that.
Oh no!
No other Doctor got to say
never.
goodbye to anybody. They almost all get a pretty quick, you're over. You fall from a telescope. That's it. You get poisoned by a spider. That's it. He doesn't get.
You heroically cure your friend instead of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. You're 2 poisons, isn't it? I mean, he's poisoned.
Yeah. Oh, that's a top tier Doctor Who episode.
Oh, that's my favourite.
It is hard to argue Caves of Androzani. I will say, for me, I still personally have a love for Pyramids of Mars that might just still tip it. There's something about Pyramids of Mars that I love so much. Oh yeah, it's very silly.
The test thing is awful, but
yeah,
it's still fucking awesome. I love Pyramids of Mars. Sutekh is one of my favourite bands.
Sutekh is that's a villain they need to bring back. I love Sutekh.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that they've never brought back Sutekh.
Yeah, me too. There are some villains they don't have the rights to, so I guess it depends.
Yeah, that makes sense. If they don't have the rights to Sutekh.
It might be that Sutekh's one of them, because I think Omega's one of them as well.
Oh, really?
Weirdly. I'm sure I read that somewhere. Because I always thought Omega's an obvious one to bring back as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm
so we were saying about the regeneration. His regeneration, when he gets
Tennant, yeah,
he gets to go to see all those people that he was with, and then at the end he still cries.
I don't want to go. Yeah, see that was the thing for it. That was the thing, wasn't it? It's like you've been given this wonderful opportunity. You've gone back and seen all your companions. Just go with dignity.
Exactly. You had the one of the best opportunities for a Doctor send off. And you then blub about it like some.
Well, and again, that was Russell's choice, I think.
Because
apparently he did loads of takes of that in different ways. That line, because there's nothing necessarily wrong with the line, because he could have said it in a fun way, I don't want to go, that would have been fine. It would have been it would have been very David Tennant's Doctor to kind of act like that and kind of as a kind of quip,
just a slight it's a shame I have to go, just different wording and different way of delivering it, but that to this day infuriates me. I could not watch a Tennant episode for a long time after that. And that's just me being petty, I know.
Yeah. I liked some of the stories, or the idea of the stories leading up to his regeneration, though.
The
when he starts really being an asshole and going too far.
I think there was
There were some nice bits in there. There were some awful episodes, but there was some nice idea of him like, you've gone too far. Like, you're going too far.
The end of is it Waters of Mars?
Yeah.
The end of that, when she
basically is like,
I've saved you, and all that sort of stuff. And she just goes in and fucking shoots herself. It's like, fuck hell, that was
awesome. Good. Yeah, really good.
Really good.
But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm happy to be the canary for you, man, down in the mines. I'll give it a watch and let you know. If you don't want to. Although I feel like you'll probably watch the first episode anyway, just see what happens. But...
yeah, I'm willing to give it a go.
So are we gonna if we're watching it, are we gonna do a review of the Centenary special?
Oh,
since we will have both seen it.
I mean, if we're both watching,
I feel like it's inevitable, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But anyway, cautiously optimistic for the future of Doctor Who. Can't say the same about Star Trek from what I'm hearing.
No.
So there we go. But anyway, my DVDs still work, so it's all good. It's fine. But yeah, so next time, I believe we are going to be covering Smokey and the Bandit. Because, we like to mix it up a bit. We did double Nosferatu last time, so we're gonna do something a bit more light.
I didn't realize until later we didn't actually mention Shadow of the Vampire.
It was an intense. The thing is, we did mention it before we started recording.
Yeah.
And sometimes that bleeds in where I think I've said something, and then I'm listening back and I'm like, oh no, that was the conversation after we stopped or before we started. But it was quite intense going back and forth between the two.
Really, but
yeah. It was the jumping back and forth between the two. It was quite intense, that.
Yeah.
I'm quite pleased with that episode, though. I think that came out remarkably well, considering we were jumping back and forth.
Yeah, I think we did all right.
I think we did okay. But so next time, Smokey and the Bandit. But until then, stay safe, take care, watch The Northman, and we will catch you next time.